Hello and welcome to Finextra TV. I'm Hannah Wallace and today we're at Rackspace to speak to one of their solution directors, Rhys Sharp, about technology transformation. Hello Rhys, thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Hello.
So I want to talk about some of the challenges we're seeing around technology transformation, but also what about banks and how they're overcoming these challenges. So let's start there.
There's a lot of technology change around at the moment. A lot of that's driven by the consumer pressure and the digital natives driving that the need for a digital engagement with their bank. So what's happening is the banks are trying to adapt to that. So for an established bank, it's really difficult because their internal systems don't lend themselves very well to that level of change. Whereas the challenger banks that are coming along, typically they're not encumbered by that legacy infrastructure, so they can react a lot faster. But again, that puts more pressure onto those established banks. So there's a real challenge to how do we keep pace, how do we do that in the right frameworks, and how do we have the people to support that change?
So they've got a few things to consider. They've got innovation, security, and regulation. Can you tell us how can they kind of keep the right balance between the three?
Well, there's a couple of things that are going on from that perspective. I think what we're seeing now are people are building the regulation and the security in right from the very beginning. It's not an afterthought anymore. So when they're developing new systems, they're developing with regulation in mind, with security in mind. We've seen with the FCA of producing an innovation lab where organisations can actually innovate within an environment that has that regulatory governance around it, so they understand how it best fits into that. So it's been a really interesting model.
Very exciting as well. But what does this all mean for the culture within a bank and a business? What are the shifts looking like?
Well, that's where there's some real change. Obviously, what we've got is different speeds of IT. So the established environments that support the core banking typically run at a very slow pace, and obviously the governance and the people around that typically run with that. What we're seeing now with cloud is the innovation is much more rapid, so change is faster, and the culture has to go with that. So the challenge for the banks is, do we hire new people from a skills market that's actually under real pressure, or do they develop their own people to actually deliver against that? And I think there's a real challenge for the banks in that space.
So we've spoken a lot about challenges and changes going forward. So what do you think this space is going to look like, say, at the end of next year?
Well, I think there's the pace isn't going to change. I think, in fact, I would say it's probably going to increase, and we're probably going to see more adoption of cloud, and the use of expert managed service companies and expert consultancies in helping banks actually adopt those cloud environments. I think that's going to be a big change for the banks from that perspective.
Exciting times ahead. Well,
absolutely.
Rhys, thank you very much for speaking with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.